what is the meaning of intellectual property rights. So before I start the series, I'd like to inform you all that I am taking this class only for the students who have just started to study IPR. So I'll be going in a slow and steady manner. So let's start the class now. Listen, before intellectual property rights, if you would have studied constitutional law or many other subjects to understand what is the meaning of the term right. So you can understand right means some kind of authority or some kind of benefit or some kind of advantage which you have. So when it comes to intellectual is something which has to do with the mind. Like the very word intellectual is kind of synonymous with the word intelligent. So you can understand it has to be something that has to deal with the mind. Now let's understand the term property. What do you mean by property? What comes to your mind when somebody says property? So generally, maybe an empty area of land, acres of land, a farmhouse or house or guest house or whatever. Generally that comes to your mind when you say it's a property. Or the other thing when it comes in your mind would be something which you possess, maybe a pen, maybe a book which you own. So that is also one type of property. So property as such is a bundle of rights. Now, why do you call property to be a bundle of rights? Is because once you have the property, only you have the particular right to either own it, to sell it or do whatever changes you want to make. For example, let's take, if I possess this house, I have the right to either paint it in what color I want, or if I'm having this acre of land, I have the sole right to decide which crop to cultivate there, or whether or not to cultivate also, or whether I can sell this particular land. It's all up to me because that particular property belongs to me. Or not just land. Let's take for example this particular pen. I have this particular pen. I have the sole authority to decide whether to use it to teach IPR or whether to use it for my own personal purpose. The same way with this board also. This property, it's a property, it's a thing, it belongs to me, I own it. So it's up to me whether to teach IPR class today or take some other class today. So it's all up to me, it's my right to decide what I can do with my property. So I hope you guys are understood with what I mean by property. Now this property concept is a really vast concept. So I'll try to minimize it a bit so that we can go directly to intellectual property rights. So for that particular purpose, we'll understand that there are two types of property. Actually, like I mentioned, property is a wide concept. There are many types of properties. So we can't deal with all of it. So for our better understanding, we'll just take up the two types of property. That is tangible property and intangible property. So tangible property. Tangible property is something which has physical existence, something which you can touch, something that is already there in the physical sense. Now this board, it is there, I can touch it, it is a particular property. Of having this pen, it is there, I can touch it, I can use it. So it is a tangible property. Or let's take a house. It is there, I can touch it, it is physically there. So anything which has physical existence, that comes under the ambit of tangible property. So tangible means physical. Anything which is there physically. Now, what do you mean by intangible? So obviously the opposite of it, something which cannot be there physically. So it's technically not physical. Now you might be wondering, what is something that is not physically there? What property cannot be there physically? Like everything you see, it is touched. No. Now I'll give you an example. I'm using this pen of camelin, but I cannot go and touch camelin as such. You might be wondering, yeah, I can touch camelin like this. No, not that. How will I own the camelin brand? How will I go and touch the camelin brand and say that camelin brand belongs to me? No, it don't belong to me. I'm just using it. That's all. Or that's the same with anything. or any type of clothes you wear or any brand, or take iPhone for that matter. I can't say I'm using iPhone's product, yes, but that iPhone as such, the brand doesn't belong to me. So those things are known as intangible properties, something which does not belong but still it is there. Then why does those things come under the ambit of property? Because it is used for sale, it's used for sale or mortgage, all those purposes. It is used for all these purposes. So that's why it also comes within the ambit of property. So this intellectual property is a form of intangible property because it is used for the purpose of sale. Like I said, you are using iPhone for that matter. How do you identify the phone as iPhone? Because of that Apple logo. Or take for example the pen Camel's product. You identify it by the camel nearby. So that's how you identify the products, right? Or the way the dairy milk chocolate, the way it is written on the wrapper's color, you can identify that it belongs to dairy milk. And why do they use it? Because it's used for sale purpose. Only because of that symbol we are able to identify it and we are able to buy it. So it's used for sale. So only with those properties, since it is used for sale or mortgage or any other purposes as such, it is known as intangible property. And you are applied your mind from this very term I told you. Intellectual itself means it has something to do with human mind. So take our apple, they have applied their mind to come up with that particular apple's shape, the symbol, and that with that particular symbol only we are able to identify that particular product, and that particular product is then used for sale, from which sale we are buying that product. So since it is used in such a manner, it is known as intellectual property. Any property which has application of human mind and which is not there physically but it is used for sale or mortgage, then it is known as intellectual property. Now that you guys are clear with what is meant by intellectual property, we'll now move on to see what are the types of intellectual property. So basically you can see there are two types of intellectual property, that is copyright and other is industrial property. Now when you take copyright, what all comes under the ambit of copyright will be literary works. So what do you mean by literary work? Anything which you write, any kind of book, any kind of poetry, any kind of novel, anything which you write, that comes under the ambit of literary work. Then next is artistic works. So what do you mean by artistic works? Any kind of art. It can be anything, either paintings, drawings, making sculptures, all those things come under the ambit of artistic works. Then next is dramatic works. What do you mean by a drama? Any drama which you perform, which you see, any play which is taking place. So all those things come under the ambit of dramatic works. Then musical work. When you compose any music, all those things come under the ambit of musical work. Then cinematographic films, like the name itself says, it's a movie. So when you do any movie, all those things will come under the ambit of cinematographic films. And the next is sound recording. What do you mean by sound recording? Sound recording is the background sounds which they record for a particular movie. It can be any type of sound recording. So those things come under the ambit of copyright protection. We'll deal with this in detail when I take the aspect of copyright. Now let's move on to study what are the aspects of industrial property. So like I already mentioned in the very beginning of the class itself, IP is where you apply your mind. So what do you think can first come under the ambit of an intellectual property? So when you invent something, you're using your mind and you're coming up with a particular invention, right? So inventions are protected under intellectual property. So invention will be protected only when it is new. It should be very new, not known to somebody else. If it's known to somebody else, then it won't be considered as an invention, right? So when it's new, not known to anybody, it has some purpose, it has some usefulness. So then it is an invention and it will be protected under the aspect of patents. The next thing is any logos, symbols, etc. What do you mean by logos, symbols and all those things? It's the way in which you identify a particular product. So anything, any logo, any symbol or any diagram or anything by which you identify the product of a person, then that comes under the ambit of trademarks. Let me give you an example. The first thing, let's take the example of a Jaguar car. How do you identify the car to be Jaguar's product? By seeing the Jaguars in front of it. Or how do you identify the Puma product? By seeing their logo. Or how do you identify any other product? You can take any kind of example for that matter. Take Dairy Milk chocolate. How do you identify? The way it is written, the 2 cups of milk and the way Dairy Milk is formed in between. So you identify that product, right? So that's how you're identifying it. So it comes under the ambit of trademarks. Why? Because through that only you are identifying it, and that is used for sale of the product. Like Apple's logo, that particular apple shape, right? So seeing that you are able to identify that it belongs to Apple, it's Apple's product. So that is known as the logo symbol that comes under the ambit of trademarks. The next thing would be industrial designs. What do you mean by industrial design? The outer design. Let me give you an example for it. Let's take the car Mini Cooper. You have seen the design of that car, the model, how it looks from the outside. Yeah. So for coming up with that particular design also, they have used their mind. So it comes under the ambit of design and it is protected under Designs Act. Not only a car's design, it can be any outer layer design, or it can be on your clothes design, the outer layer of it, or a cap's design. So how the outer and finish, the design of it will come under the ambit of Designs Act. The next aspect, like I mentioned here, is place of origin. When you are identifying any product from its place of origin, then it is protected under geographical indications. Geographical indication, like the name, you are identifying that product from the place where it has originated. From the place, since it's associated with the geographical area, it is protected under geographical indications. Let me give you a best example for it. Let's take Darjeeling tea, or Kanchipuram silk, or Banarasi sari. How do you identify all these things? From the name, right? Tea is available everywhere. Then why you're associating Darjeeling tea specially? Because it's available only in Darjeeling. It has a unique taste, it has a unique flavor. So since that particular thing is available only in Darjeeling, you're associating that product with that place of origin. So that is known as geographical indication. The protection provided is geographical indications. Now, the next aspect would be chips. Chips, what I mean by chips here is the computer chips, the integrated circuits, designs and all which you see in computers and all, or any machines which is used. So for coming up with that particular design, the outer layer of the chip, the people have used their mind. So therefore, that particular chips will be protected under Semiconductor Integrated Circuits Layouts Design Act. So I hope you guys are clear with what I mean by copyright and the other aspect of industrial property. So we will complete our class as of now. So let's have a quick summary as to what we learned today. So in this class we studied what is the meaning of IPR, and there are 2 types of IPR, basically copyright and industrial property. So under copyright we found that there is literary works, artistic work, dramatic work, musical work, cinematographic films and sound recording. Whereas under industrial property you have inventions which is protected under patents, you have symbols, logos and all those things which are protected under trademarks. Then you have industrial designs which is protected under Designs Act. Then place of origin, I mean any geographical area, that it comes under the ambit of GI. And next is chips, that is protected under Semiconductor Integrated Circuit Layout Design Act. So from my next class, I will be dealing with the aspect of patents. So I hope you guys enjoyed my teaching. Thank you for watching this video. If you like my teaching, then please do like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.